Welcome to Giving an Answer, the show dedicated to defending the historic Christian faith. I am your host, A.C. Felder, and today the topic is the icons of evolution. And to discuss this with me, I have Tricia Scribner. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right, let me tell you about Tricia. She possesses a bachelor's and master's degree in science toward nursing. Mm-hmm. She teaches apologetics and New Testament at Hickory Grove Baptist Christian High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. She has written a number of books on Christian mentoring. She currently writes for a women's magazine and has contributed numerous articles on topics such as Christian leadership, medical and health issues from a biblical perspective, and she is currently pursuing a master's degree in apologetics from Southern Evangelical Seminary. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
What did I leave out?
Not a thing.
Now,
You covered it well.
I left out some important stuff, though.
I am a mom.
There you go.
I'm a mom.
There
I
you
have
go.
3 girls.
There you go.
They're about grown, but we enjoy them. I have grandbabies, and I've been married for about 30 years. So.
See, women are better. I have guys on the show, and I throw them that picture, and they're like, oh, no, I'm done. No, what about your wife? Oh, okay. See, women are so much better. Okay, Tricia, we're going to be talking about the icons of evolution. So let's start out talking about evolution. So what is evolution?
Well, evolution really, if we just take it in its broadest sense, just means change over time. Okay, so you and I both, we would agree, are changing over time. I don't know about you, but I'm changing over time.
I got some gray hairs that
yes,
will testify to that.
So most of us, though, when we use that word, don't mean that general term. We more or less are referring to this ideology called Darwinian evolution, which says that first life occurred by chance, and that subsequent life in diverse forms arose out of a single ancestor all the way through man. And so that's what we usually mean when we talk about evolution in the public setting.
Yeah, and I hear that there's a distinction between what we call macroevolution and microevolution. Could you explain the difference?
Sure, and we have to remember too that we attach these words that aren't familiar to us, and so we shouldn't be intimidated by that. We just need to look up a couple of things, and most of us would know that micro means small and macro means big, and that's exactly how it applies to the term of evolution when we use it or when scientists use it. Microevolution is something we all believe. It simply says that species adapt to their environments. Let's say if you were in a snowy environment and you noticed mostly white rabbits, and you would say, how did the white rabbits all become white? Well, because the brown ones were seen by the predators more easily, and they didn't survive because they would be hunted down and more easily seen. So we see how this species then adapted over time to its environment within the species. But that's microevolution, and nobody has a problem with that. Christians, we all see that.
Right.
Adaptation to the environment and within species. But what we don't see is what Darwin asserted, that over millions and millions and millions of years, these small, infinitesimal almost changes would create big changes across species into different life forms. That would mean amoeba is a fish, is a frog, is a turtle, is a chicken, is a man, all from one earliest life form. That would be macroevolution, and that's what we disagree with. And usually, though, people don't discriminate between those two terms. They usually just say evolution, and they're talking about the idea of macroevolution.
Right.
Only scientists generally are speaking in those terms. But it's a good distinction for us as Christians and the laity to know, so that we can just talk intelligently with those who do use those terminologies.
And I'm sure that's what we're about to get into, because
A little bit more.
What Darwinists have done is they have taken this microevolution and they have made this huge leap, and they say, okay, well, if things can change, over a given small period of time, then, over a large period, amount of time, then it can change to something else. Although it never changes from one thing to another. They talk about bacteria. Well, it changes into other bacteria. A mouse, it doesn't change into a kangaroo.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, but I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit more. So let me just go ahead and get into the crux of the issue that we're going to be discussing today. And the topic is the icons of evolution. So, Tricia, tell me, what are the icons of evolution? What are we talking about when we say the icons of evolution?
it means something, and I'll tell you that in just a moment. But first, I want to give credit to Dr. Jonathan Wells, who has a PhD in molecular and cellular biology, who wrote a book called Icons of Evolution. And he is talking about, when he refers to the icons of evolution, the handful of major evidences that most evolutionists use to support their reason for believing in evolution at all, okay? For believing that all of the present life forms are descendants from a single ancestral form, and that first life happened by chance, that there's nothing outside of nature, that this natural world or universe is all that exists. So that's what those evidences that are most often used are what are called icons of evolution. They've become sort of like landmarks for evolutionists, and this is what we also find in our high school textbooks. These examples that are used across the board in our high school biology textbooks by scientists who speak on evolution, as well as by the laity. They may not call them icons, but that's the main evidences that they refer to, or examples, to support their belief in evolution.
Okay, before we get into the actual icons, I wanted to clear something up. Why is this important for Christians to study? Why should Christians care of whether evolution is true or not?
You know, Christianity makes historical claims, it makes scientific claims, and we as Christians believe that the Bible is true and accurate in every point on every subject which it teaches or touches, as Dr. Norman Geisler would say. And while it's not a science book per se, we cannot be Christians and believe in naturalism, that evolution occurred, that there was no designer to begin with. That's not compatible with Christian life. The other reason, for most of us who believe the Bible, number one, we often don't think through why we believe it. And what I find with my high school students is they get into college and they are sitting before an awe-inspiring professor who posits these arguments and they have nothing to say. Two things happen. One, they begin to doubt.
Yes.
And we lose them during their young adult years. Very often, they abandon the faith during those years because we have not equipped them. And that's what we're trying to do now in Christian high schools, is get better at that. And number two, we're unable to engage the lost. And God has called us to engage the lost. And these days, we can't walk in and say, the Romans Road says you are lost, God says you're all are sinners. We can start there, but what do we do and where do we go when the person says, I don't believe the Bible?
Right.
We have to start somewhere back here and take them toward the gospel logically. So we need to know the evidence in our world around us in order to be able to engage other people and win a hearing for the gospel. And evolution is a big part of that because it's considered to be not a theory anymore, but as fact, and it's assumed by many to be fact.
If evolution is correct, Christianity is wrong. That's the bottom line. And that's why it's so important for us to understand why Christianity and evolution are incompatible. So I'm sorry for a little side trail, but I just wanted to just lay the groundwork there. So I'll let you go ahead and get into the icons of evolution and let you talk about that a little bit now.
Okay, well then let's just touch on several of the main evidences or examples that are most often cited to support evolution and its beliefs. One of them is the fact of embryonic similarity among and across the board. They're called Haeckel's drawings. A 19th century biologist and artist drew the embryonic stage in several different types of vertebrates. For instance, in a frog, in a fish, in a chicken, and in a human. And what he noticed or tried to display was how similar these embryos were. And then evolutionists would surmise from that or generalize from that, we all have one common ancestor. See, we look the same embryonically. So they use that. That's one of the arguments that they use to say, see, we come from one common ancestor. Secondly, very often they talk about the Galapagos Island finches. What happened, the Darwin noticed a variety of finches on the Galapagos Island, but one thing he noticed is that during drought, the beak's size changed. And it adapted, And he surmised from that over time, given enough time, billions of years, not only would that beak size change, but adaptations would increase so much that it would produce new diverse forms, not just different types of finches, but a different type of life form altogether. Thus, we go from invertebrates to vertebrates. We go from first life through the ocean, fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and then man being the highest. So you can see how far that you have to take this once you get on this boat.
Yeah.
You've got to take it all the way to the end. So they say that this change shows that it can propel evolution all the way forward to create these new life forms. So first of all, the first example that's most often used is the embryonic similarity, and then the second one is the Galapagos Island finches and the change when drought occurred in their beak size. And then the third one that's often is used is antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And as we all know, the scientists have produced antibiotic-resistant bacteria. We all know that we're in the phase where new antibiotics are being developed all the time because of this problem. But in the laboratory, antibiotic-resistant bacteria have been created, have been produced, and so they say, aha, this resistant bacteria shows that a mutation could occur, and that through natural selection, that is chance, that this mutation would be picked up and develop new life forms, not just newly resistant bacteria, but megabacteria, and that would produce a linear movement of change into new life forms. So that's the third argument they use. And then, let's see, I know there's one, the four-winged fruit fly. The four-winged fruit fly. In the laboratory, scientists have produced a four-winged fruit fly. Now, you and I don't really care how many wings it's got, we just want to squash it, but most have two.
Right.
And so this is a development in which they say, aha, see, we can show that this mutation could be picked up and again produce new life forms if taken to its logical conclusion and given enough time and enough changes, produce new organisms of diverse forms. So this is used. And then finally, Darwin's tree of life is often cited as one of the best examples that evolution has really occurred, and that's how we've got to the diverse forms of today. It would be like down here at the bottom, there's the initial life form, and then all the diverse life forms branched and branched and branched off of that initial life form. So we're all just part of the same circle of life, so to speak. And it sounds very nice. So in that, they cite two supporting evidences for the tree of life, that this is the way it happened. And one is similar bone structure. For instance, a porpoise's fin has similar bone structure to the hand of a human, or if we look across different types of mammals, we will notice that many of them have bones that we have in a similar location, working in a similar way. All right, so they say, see, we have similar bone structures, so we must have come from the same line. All right, and then secondly, let's see, the homology is the first one, and second, the fossil record they use to support the tree of life reasoning. And they say, well, the fossil record shows many forms developing over time, and we can confront each of these examples and evidences with the hard evidence, and it takes us to a different conclusion than Darwin came to.
Let's follow it out. Then
Okay.
what's wrong with these theories? Why do they not prove what they're trying to prove?
Well, I want to confess to you that I'm learning.
Okay.
I do
We
not
all are.
confess to be an expert, and that's why it's so important that we know that the average folks like you and me, we can get in there and dig a little bit. And by the way, the folks that are watching your show today, it's like preaching to the choir. They're already people who are interested and care about what's going on